Hi boys and girls, and welcome back to another edition of Snack Time with a Dollop of Read Aloud. We're going to pick up where we left off with Chapter 7 of Number of the Stars by Lois Lowry, with permission granted by Houghton Mifflin Publishing for me to be able to share this book with you today. So, when we last were reading, I gave you a video to kind of show you just how close Denmark is to Switzerland. Thank you. Special delivery too. That video really kind of helped you to see just how close, or was trying to help you to see just how close Denmark is to Switzerland. Now, if you think about it, locally, it's kind of like if you were on the riverbank of the Delaware River and you were looking across the Delaware River to the next body of land, and that next body of land is actually Philadelphia, which is the state of Pennsylvania. And pretty much the closeness, it's an approximation, but really as close as New Jersey is to Pennsylvania is how close Denmark is to Switzerland. So that's really close. And the idea of being that close to freedom, if you're living in Denmark, to Switzerland, who's neutral, because remember, neutral means they didn't take a side, so they're not for the Allies and they're not for the Axis powers, which was Germany, Japan, and Italy. So they're that close to freedom. And so the Jews really wanted to try and get to Switzerland if possible. That's something important to kind of squirrel away for later. When we last left, Annemarie, her mom, Ellen, and Kirsty, they left Papa behind in Copenhagen and they took a trip to see Mama's brother, Uncle Heinrich. Now, Uncle Heinrich is a new character in the book. Uncle Heinrich is going to be very important for the rest of the chapters going on. So let's pick up where we left off with Number of the Stars. And I asked you a question earlier, and I'm going to continue to ask you that question again. How would you describe Annemarie as a person? And keep thinking about that question while we're reading. Chapter 7, The House by the Sea. "Oh, Annemarie," Ellen said, with awe in her voice. "It's beautiful." Annemarie looked around and nodded her head in agreement. The house and the meadows that surrounded it were so much a part of her childhood, a part of her life, that she didn't often look at them with fresh eyes. Now she did. Seeing Ellen's pleasure, it was true. They were beautiful. The little red-roofed farmhouse was very old, its chimney crooked, and even the small shuttered windows tilted at angles. A bird's nest, wispy with straw and half hidden in the corner where the roof met the wall above the bedroom window. Nearby, a gnarled tree was still speckled with a few apples, now long past ripe. Mama and Kirsty had gone inside, but Annemarie and Ellen ran across the high grass meadow through the late wildflowers. From nowhere, a gray kitten appeared and ran beside them, pouncing here and there upon imagined mice, pausing to lick its paws, and then darting off again. It pretended to ignore the girls, but looked back often to be certain that they were still there, apparently pleased to have a couple new playmates. The meadow ended at the sea, and the gray water licked there at damp brown grasses flattened by the wind and bordered by smooth, heavy stones. "I have never been this close to the sea before," Ellen whispered. "Of course you have. You've been to the harbor in Copenhagen 1,000,000 times," Ellen laughed. "I mean the real sea. The way it is here, open like this, it's like a whole world of water." Annemarie shook her head in amazement. To live in Denmark, a country surrounded by water, and never have stood at its edge. She could not understand it. "Your parents really are city people, aren't they?" Ellen nodded. "My mother is afraid of the ocean," she said, laughing. "She says it's too big for her and too cold." The girls sat on a rock and took off their shoes and socks. They tiptoed across the damp stones and let the water touch their feet. It was cold. They giggled and stepped back. Annemarie leaned down and picked up a brown leaf that floated back and forth with the movement of the water. Look, she said. This leaf may have come from a tree in Sweden. It could have been blown from a tree into the sea and floated all the way across. See over there? She said, pointing. See that land? Way across there? That's Sweden. Ellen cupped one hand over her eyes and looked across the water at the misty shoreline, and there was another country. It's not so very far, she said. Maybe, Annemarie suggested. Standing over there are two girls just our age, looking back across and saying, that's Denmark. They squinted into the hazy distance, as if they might see Swedish children standing there and looking back, but it was too far. They saw only the hazy strip of land and two small boats bobbing up and down in the gray ruffles of separating water. I wonder if one of those is your Uncle Heinrich's boat, Ellen said. Maybe. I can't tell. They're too far away. Uncle Heinrich's boat is named Ingeborg, for my mama. Ellen looked around. Does he keep it right here? Does he tie it up so that it won't float away? Annemarie laughed. Oh, no. In town, at the harbor, there's a big dock, and all the fishing boats go and come from there. That's where they unload their fish. You could smell it. All night, they are there, anchored in the harbor. Annemarie, Ellen, Mama's voice came across the meadows. The girls looked around and saw her waving to them. They turned, picked up their shoes, and began walking towards the house. The kitten, who had settled comfortably on the stony shore, rose immediately and followed them. I took Ellen down to show her the sea, Annemarie explained, when they reached the place where Mama waited. She had never been that close before. We started to wade, but it was too cold. I wish we could come here in the summer so we could swim. It's cold even then, Mama said. She looked around. You didn't see anyone, did you? You didn't talk to anyone? Annemarie shook her head. Just the kitten. Ellen had picked it up, and it lay purring in her arms as she stroked its small head and talked to it softly. I meant to warn you. You must stay away from the people here, or while we're here. But there's no one around, Annemarie reminded her. Even so, if you see anyone at all, even someone you know, like one of Uncle Heinrich's friends, it is better to just come into the house. It is too difficult, maybe even too dangerous, to explain who Ellen is. Ellen looked up and bit her lip. There aren't soldiers here too, are there? Mama sighed. I'm afraid there are soldiers everywhere, dear one, and especially now. This is truly a bad time. Come in now and help me fix supper. Heinrich will be home soon. Watch the step there, it's loose. Do you know what I have done? I found enough apples for applesauce. Even though there's no sugar, the apples are truly sweet. Heinrich will bring some fish, and there will be wood for the fire, so tonight we will be warm and well fed. Is it not a bad time then, Ellen? Or is it not a bad time then, Annemarie told her. Not if there's applesauce. Ellen kissed the kitten's head and let it leap from her arm to the ground. It darted away and disappeared in the tall grass. They followed Mama into the house. That night the girls dressed for bed in the small upstairs bedroom they were all sharing. The same bedroom that had been Mama's when she was a little girl. Across the hall, Kirsty was already asleep in a wide bed that had once belonged to Annemarie's grandparents. Ellen touched her neck as if she had put on after she had put on Annemarie's flower sprig nightgown which Mama had packed. Where is my necklace? She asked. What did you do with it? I hid it in a safe place, Annemarie told her. A very secret place where no one will ever find it. And I will keep it there for you until it is safe for you to wear it again. Ellen nodded. Papa gave it to me when I was very small. She sat down on the edge of the old bed and ran her fingers along the handmade quilt that covered it. The flowers and the birds, faded now, had been stitched onto the quilt by Annemarie's great-grandmother many years before. I wish I knew where my parents were, Ellen said in a small voice as she outlined one of the applique birds with her finger. Annemarie didn't have an answer for her. She patted her friend's hand, and they sat together silently. Through the window, they could see a thin, round slice of moon appear through the clouds against the pale sky. The Scandinavian night was not very dark yet, though soon, when winter came, the night would be not only dark, but very long night skies, beginning in late afternoon and lasting through morning. From downstairs, they could hear Mama's voice and Uncle Heinrich's catching up on the news. Mama missed her brother when she hadn't seen him for a while. Annemarie knew they were close. Mama always teased him gently for not marrying. She asked him laughingly when they were going to get together, or when they were together, whether he had found a good wife yet, one that would keep his house tidier. Heinrich teased back and told Mama that she should come to Gilligy to live again, so that he wouldn't have to do all the chores by himself. For a moment, to Annemarie, listening to it seemed like earlier times, like happy visits to the farm in the past, with summer daylight extending beyond bedtime, with the children tucked away in the bedrooms and the grown-ups downstairs talking. But there was a difference. In the earlier times, she had always overheard laughter. Tonight, there was no laughter at all. All right, boys and girls, that's the end of this chapter. And I had asked that when we started reading today, that I wanted you to think about what kind of person Annemarie is. And I have to say, I know what I think. I know what kind of person I think Annemarie is starting to become. But really think about Annemarie and how she is interacting with Ellen and what she's doing to keep Ellen safe. Keep that in mind and try and answer that question. Also, earlier I said Switzerland when I meant Sweden. I'm sorry, they are two different countries, but the swa kind of threw me off. So Denmark is actually really close to Sweden, just like New Jersey is actually really close to Pennsylvania. So sorry for that misspeak, and I will make sure to study my geography more closely. That being said, I hope you enjoyed today's read aloud. Please comment in the section below about your thoughts on character traits that best describe Annemarie, and I will talk to you soon. Miss you, love you, and I hope you stay safe. Bye, guys.